All right, guys, strap in. This isn't some campfire tale. This happened to me in my house. It started small, just weird. The kind of thing you brush off, a glitch, imagination. But then the voice came through the baby monitor, crystal clear, a woman's voice, soft, singing a lullaby. Problem is, I don't have a baby. I live completely alone, out here in the middle of nowhere. And whatever was on that monitor, it wasn't a glitch. It knew I was listening. It knew where I was. This is the story of how my safe place became a prison and how the sound of a lullaby nearly drove me completely out of my mind. This is what isolation really feels like when something else is in it with you. Okay, so context. My name's Alex. I'm just a guy. Work from home, IT stuff, pays the bills, needed peace and quiet, hated the city noise, so I did the slightly crazy thing, bought an old farmhouse. Seriously, picture it. Miles from the nearest town. Cornfields on one side, dense woods wrapping around the back. The closest neighbor is a good 20-minute drive away, and they're barely there. It's just me and Frank, my perpetually unimpressed tabby cat. Honestly, I loved it. The silence wasn't empty. It was full of wind, crickets, the creaks of an old house settling. It felt like mine, a fortress of solitude. The weirdness started about a month ago. Not big stuff, little things. You know how you put your keys down right there, back, and 10 minutes later they're not. Or you're positive you turned off the kitchen light before bed, but at 3 a.m. there it is, glowing down the hallway. Yeah, that stuff. Blamed it on stress, on Frank being a nocturnal jerk, on the house being old and weird. Standard stuff. Easy to dismiss. Then came the yard sale, or rather, the aftermath. Mrs. Henderson, the nice, if slightly batty old lady down the lane, well, several lanes, passed away. Her kids were clearing out her place and had a massive sale, mostly junk, but hey, cheap junk. I wandered over, more out of boredom than anything. That's where I found it, the baby monitor. It was ancient, looked like something from the 90s. Big clunky parent unit, chunky plastic, a little antenna, and a separate camera unit with a night vision lens that looked like a cyclops eye. It was dusty, shoved in a box of mismatched Tupperware lids. $5. Why did I buy it? Honestly, no clue. Maybe the tech nerd in me thought it was a fun relic. Maybe I had a vague idea of using it to spy on the bird feeder outside my office window. Dumb impulse buy. I chucked the box in the back of my closet when I got home and forgot about it until last Tuesday. Work sucked. Server outage. Clients screaming. By 11 p.m., I was fried, brain like overcooked noodles. As I was stumbling towards bed, I kicked the box in the closet. The baby monitor tumbled out. On a whim, fueled by exhaustion and curiosity, I fished it out, plugged the parent unit in next to my bed. The little screen flickered to life, a grainy, greenish-black view of my closet ceiling. Okay, not exciting. I plugged the camera unit in too, just for kicks, pointing it vaguely out the closet door into my dark bedroom. The screen adjusted, bathing my familiar room in that eerie monochrome night vision glow. Weirdly intimate, seeing your own space like that. I shrugged, set the parent unit on my nightstand, and crashed. Sleep didn't come easy. The house felt different. Too quiet. Not the peaceful quiet, but a thick, listening quiet, like the silence before a storm. I tossed and turned. Frank, usually glued to my feet, was suspiciously absent, probably hunting dust bunnies under the couch. Then around 2:30 a.m., static. Faint but unmistakable. Coming from the baby monitor on my nightstand, I froze. My eyes snapped open. The screen showed the same grainy view. The foot of my bed, the doorway to the hall, all bathed in ghostly green. Just empty room. But the static hissed, a low, insistent white noise that hadn't been there before. It sounded wet, like radio waves filtered through water. Okay, I thought, heart starting to thump a little harder against my ribs. Old tech, faulty wiring, interference, probably picking up a radio tower or something miles away. Yeah, that makes sense. I reached over and smacked the side of the parent unit. The static crackled sharply, dipped, then surged back, louder. Louder, more aggressive. It filled the quiet room, drowning out the faint tick of the old house. It felt intrusive, violating. This wasn't background noise anymore. It was in the room with me. I sat up, fumbling for the power button. My finger hovered over it. Just turn it off, unplug it, throw it back in the closet. Simple. That's when the static changed. It didn't stop. It shaped itself. A breath, a long, drawn-out sigh. Right in the middle of the static, my blood turned to ice water. Every hair on my arm stood up. I wasn't breathing. I stared at the little screen, still just my room. Empty, silent, except for that awful, modulated static breath. Then a voice, not loud, not screaming, soft, almost gentle, but crystal clear, cutting through the distortion like a knife. Hush now, little one. A woman's voice, low, melodic, impossibly close, coming directly from the speaker, inches from my ear. I recoiled like I'd been shocked, scrambling back against the headboard, the sheets tangling around my legs. My heart hammered against my sternum, a frantic drum solo threatening to burst out of my chest. My eyes darted between the screen and my dark bedroom doorway. Nothing. Just the green-tinged emptiness on the screen and the deeper blackness of the hall beyond my door. "Don't you cry," the voice continued, sweet and lulling, singing a lullaby. "Close your sweet eyes." It wasn't coming from the hall. It wasn't outside. It was here, in this device. Singing to what? To me? To nothing? The sheer wrongness of it, the domestic sweetness twisted into something terrifying in my empty, isolated house, clamped down on my throat. Under the moon's watchful gaze, I lunged for the power button, jammed my thumb down. The screen blinked off. The static stopped. The voice gone. Silence crashed back in, thick and heavy. My own ragged breathing sounded obscenely loud. I stared at the dead plastic box on my nightstand, then at the dark hallway. The silence felt charged now, pregnant with the echo of that impossible lullaby. No baby. The thought screamed in my head. There is no baby here. The next day was surreal. Sunlight streamed in, turning the terrifying night vision scene back into my boring bedroom. Frank sat on the windowsill, washing his paw with supreme indifference. It felt like a bad dream. Had I imagined it? Stress? Sleep paralysis? Maybe some weird radio frequency bleeding through? Old houses have weird wiring, right? Maybe Mrs. Henderson did have a baby monitor system and this one was somehow paired? Even across distance? Yeah, my tech brain was desperately grasping. I needed proof. Proof it was faulty. Proof it was interference. Proof I wasn't losing it. First step, check the camera unit. Still plugged in, pointing out the closet door. Normal. Unplugged it, took the parent unit downstairs to the kitchen, far away. Plugged it in. Nothing. Just a blank screen. Good. Maybe it was just interference near my bed. Feeling slightly better, or just desperately clinging to denial, I made coffee. As the pot gurgled, a sound made me jump, sloshing hot liquid onto the counter. Click. From the living room, a soft, mechanical click, like a button being pressed. I walked in slowly. The baby monitor parent unit sat on the coffee table. The screen was on, showing a grainy green-tinted view of my kitchen, from the angle of the counter where I'd just been standing. But the camera unit was unplugged upstairs in my bedroom closet. My coffee mug slipped from my numb fingers, shattering on the hardwood floor. Hot coffee sprayed my legs, but I barely felt it. I just stared at the screen. It showed the mess, the pooling coffee, my own legs from a low angle, like something was on the floor, looking up. The screen flickered. Static hissed. Then, clear as day, that soft, feminine voice. "Made a mess, didn't we?" I screamed, a raw, involuntary sound ripped from my throat. I stumbled backwards, tripping over the rug, landing hard. I scrambled away on my elbows like a crab, eyes locked on the monitor. The view shifted slightly, panning to follow my retreat. The voice came again, a hint of amusement. Clumsy. I yanked the plug from the wall. The screen died instantly. Silence. Again. Broken only by my gasping breaths and the drip, drip, drip of coffee from the counter. This wasn't interference. This wasn't a dream. Something was in that machine. Something that could see me, hear me, talk to me. And it wasn't confined to the bedroom. Panic set in. Real, cold, sweat-drenching panic. I grabbed my keys, my wallet, my phone. I needed to get out. Now. Frank yowled indignantly as I scooped him up. I burst out the front door into the bright afternoon, gulping fresh air like a drowning man. I drove, just drove, aimlessly for hours. Ended up at a crowded diner in town. The noise, the chatter, the smell of grease, it felt alien, but safe, normal. I called my friend Mark, rambling, half hysterical, telling him about the monitor, the voice. "Dude," Mark said after a long pause, "you sound wrecked. Seriously, old tech glitches, stress, isolation, it messes with your head. You've been sleeping, eating right, maybe talk to someone? A doc?" His tone was concerned, but laced with gentle skepticism. He thought I was cracking up. His doubt was like a bucket of cold water. Had I sounded crazy? Maybe I was crazy. The rational part of my brain, the part that dealt in code and logic circuits, warred with the primal terror screaming in my gut. The monitor was off, unplugged, back at the house. I'd left it. Maybe it was just me. Exhaustion, hallucinations, the isolation finally getting to me. The thought was almost comforting. Sanity was preferable to whatever the alternative was. I bought a cheap digital baby monitor from a big box store on the way back. Sleek, modern, Wi-Fi enabled. Proof. If the new monitor did it, then it was me, my brain. I could deal with that. Maybe. I got home as dusk was falling. The house looked different. Ominous, like it was watching me return. I took a deep breath, unlocked the door, and stepped into the dim hallway. Frank bolted past me, fur puffed up, hissing at nothing. Vanished into the living room. I ignored it. Denial was my shield now. I set up the new monitor, parent unit in the kitchen, camera unit. I hesitated, then placed it pointedly in the empty, spotless living room facing the couch. No night vision needed, just a clear digital view. I made dinner, tried to watch TV, jumped at every creak. Every time the furnace kicked on, my eyes kept flicking to the new parent unit on the counter. Silent, dark, normal. Relief started to seep in, warm and shaky. See? It was the old monitor. Faulty. Haunted junk. My imagination had just run wild. I felt exhausted, embarrassed, but okay. I unplugged the old parent unit from my nightstand and tossed it into the trash bin outside. Good riddance. I went to bed early, emotionally drained. The new monitor stayed silent downstairs. Sleep came, heavy and deep. I woke to singing. Not loud, not through a speaker. This was faint, distant, but unmistakable. That same lullaby. Hush now, little one, don't you cry. It was coming from downstairs. My blood froze. Not the monitor, not the monitor. The new one was silent, dark on my nightstand where I'd put it. This was real, acoustic, floating up the stairs. I lay paralyzed, straining to hear. Silence. Had I dreamed it? Another stress hallucination? Then a creak on the stairs, slow, deliberate. Step, pause, Someone was coming up. Fear, pure and electric, shot through me. Not hallucination, intruder, real danger. The isolation wasn't just psychological anymore. It was a death trap. My phone. Where was my phone? Charging on the nightstand. Next to the silent new monitor, I moved like lightning, rolling off the bed onto the floor, scrambling on my hands and knees towards the nightstand. My fingers closed around the phone just as the footsteps reached the top of the stairs. I fumbled, turning it on, the bright screen blinding in the dark. 911. Just dial 911. A shadow fell across the doorway. Tall, impossibly thin. I couldn't make out features in the gloom, just a silhouette darker than the dark. Shh! The voice was right there, in the doorway. Soft, chiding. No need for that. I screamed, jabbing at the phone screen. The figure took a step into the room. The new baby monitor on my nightstand lit up. Its screen flared to life. Not showing the living room downstairs, it showed my bedroom, from a high angle, like it was mounted on the ceiling. The image was crystal clear, color this time. I saw myself crouched on the floor by the bed, phone in hand, face contorted in terror. I saw the dark figure standing just inside the doorway, its back to the camera, and I saw, behind me, near the closet, a pale, indistinct shape like a woman in a long, old-fashioned nightgown, just watching. The voice came again, but it wasn't from the figure in the doorway. It came from the monitor's speaker, sweet and cold and utterly wrong. See? We're all here now, just one big happy family. Something in my mind snapped. The careful walls of rationality, the desperate denial, the clinging to sanity, they shattered like glass. The world tilted. Reality became thin, porous. The figure in the doorway, the impossible image on the new monitor, the phantom woman near the closet, the voice, it all crashed together in a tsunami of pure, unadulterated terror. I didn't think. I reacted. A guttural, animalistic roar tore from my throat, a sound I didn't know I could make. I launched myself not at the figure, but away, towards the window. My bedroom was on the second floor. I didn't care. I slammed shoulder first into the old wooden frame. It groaned, splintered, but held. Pain exploded through my arm, but it was drowned by the adrenaline-fueled frenzy. Running away? The voice from the monitor sighed, almost disappointed. The figure in the doorway took another step forward. I hit the window again, and again. screaming wordlessly, battering myself against the wood and glass like a trapped bird. Behind me, on the monitor screen, I saw the pale shape by the closet glide closer to my frenzied form. The dark figure advanced. The window gave way. Cool night air rushed in. I didn't hesitate. I threw myself through the jagged opening, tumbling through the air. Branches scraped, thorns ripped at my clothes and skin. I hit the ground hard, the wind knocked out of me, pain screaming from my shoulder and ribs. I didn't stop. I scrambled to my feet, stumbling, gasping, and ran. Blindly. Into the woods behind the house. Branches whipped my face, roots tried to trip me. I didn't look back. I just ran, fueled by pure, mindless terror. The lullaby echoed in my head, mixing with the rasp of my breath and the pounding of my blood. Close your sweet eyes under the moon's watchful gaze. I ran until my legs gave out. I collapsed in a ditch, hidden by thick ferns, curled into a ball, shaking uncontrollably. Every shadow moved. Every rustle in the undergrowth was it coming for me. The image from the monitor, myself, the figures, the phantom woman, played on a loop behind my eyes. The voice whispered in the rustling leaves. I was cold, hurt, terrified, and utterly, completely broken. The isolation wasn't just physical anymore. It was the desolate landscape of my own shattered mind. I had no fortress, no solitude, just the terrifying knowledge that something was in my house, something that used a baby monitor like a twisted intercom, and it had broken me. I must have passed out from exhaustion or shock. I woke hours later, stiff, freezing, covered in mud and dried blood. Dawn was a gray smear through the trees. The woods were quiet, too quiet. No birdsong, no lullaby. Slowly, painfully, I dragged myself up. Every instinct screamed to keep running, far away, never look back. But Frank, stupid, grumpy Frank, he was still in there. I couldn't leave him. And my phone. Evidence. Maybe if I could get a picture, a recording, something to prove I wasn't insane. Approaching the house in the weak morning light was like walking towards a sleeping predator. Every window looked like a watching eye. The broken window gaped like a wound. I crept around the side, listening. Nothing. Just the usual morning sounds, amplified by my terror. The back door was unlocked. I slipped inside, heart hammering. The kitchen was a mess. My spilled coffee from yesterday dried on the floor, the shattered mug. The new baby monitor sat on the counter, dark and silent. The old one was in the outside bin. Nothing seemed out of place, except the feeling. The air felt thick, heavy, charged, watched. I grabbed a heavy flashlight, a weapon, however pathetic. Frank? I hissed. No answer. I moved towards the stairs, dread coiling in my gut with every step. The steps that had creaked under its weight last night. My bedroom was worse. Glass shards glittered on the floor. The curtains fluttered in the breeze from the broken window. The new baby monitor still sat on my nightstand. I picked it up with trembling hands, turned it on. The screen lit up instantly. It showed the living room downstairs, empty, normal, like nothing had happened. Relief warred with confusion. Had I dreamed it all? The figure? The jump? The complete meltdown? The pain in my shoulder and the cuts on my face said otherwise. But the house was silent, empty. I found Frank hiding under the couch downstairs, wide-eyed and refusing to come out. I coaxed him with treats, my hands shaking. As I knelt there, something caught my eye. Near the baseboard, under the coffee table where the old monitor had sat, a smudge. Dark, almost black in the dust, like ash. Or mold. I leaned closer and heard it. Not through a speaker, not loud, a whisper. So faint it was almost subliminal, seeping from the walls themselves, from the floorboards, not the woman's voice. This was different, dry, rasping, like many voices whispering at once just below the threshold of hearing. He sees, he hears. The walls have ears, the wires sing. I clamped my hands over my ears. It didn't help. The whispers weren't in my ears, they were in the room, in the house itself. My safe place was infected, haunted. Not by a ghost, but by something that used the very structure, the wiring, the silence, and the baby monitor had just been its first cruel hello. I grabbed Frank, my laptop bag, my car keys. I didn't pack clothes. I didn't look back. I ran. Again. Got in my car, the cat yowling in protest in his carrier, and drove. I drove until the gaslight came on. Ended up in a cheap motel on the interstate. That's where I am now. Frank's hiding under the bed. I'm writing this on my laptop. I called the cops finally, told them I had an intruder. They went to the house, called me back, said there was no sign of forced entry besides the window I broke. No one inside, No footprints, nothing disturbed. They found the old baby monitor in the trash, asked if I was feeling okay, suggested I see a doctor. Their polite skepticism was worse than Mark's. It was official. I sounded like a lunatic. I'm not going back, ever. The house can rot. I'll deal with banks, lawyers, whatever. I can't. I won't. But here's the thing, the final kicker. The proof that it wasn't just the house or the monitor, it's me it's attached to, or maybe it's everywhere, I don't know. Last night, here in this crappy motel room, miles away, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered stupidly. Nothing but static at first, that same wet, hissing static. Then clear as a bell, cutting through the noise. Did you think you could run, little one? I dropped the phone, smashed it under my heel until it was plastic shards and broken glass. Bought a burner phone this morning, but this laptop, it has a microphone, a camera, and sometimes when the room is quiet, I swear I hear the faintest shh in the fan noise, or see a flicker on the screen that isn't there. The isolation followed me, the voice followed me. The static is inside my head now, a constant white noise backdrop to the terror. I don't sleep. I jump at shadows. I watch every electronic device like it's a loaded gun pointed at my face. The meltdown wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of living in this fractured, terrifying reality where the walls whisper and the machines sing lullabies to things that shouldn't exist. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. Honestly, guys, typing this out, it feels a little better. Maybe. I don't know. I just needed someone to know to hear it. Because carrying this alone, it's eating me alive. If you made it this far, thanks. Seriously, just thanks for listening. If you've ever experienced anything remotely like this, maybe let me know in the comments. So I know I'm not completely alone in this crazy. And if you could hit that like button, maybe subscribe. It sounds stupid, but asking for subs after that. But honestly, knowing people are out there listening, it helps. It really does. Maybe it keeps the static at bay for a little while. Thanks, guys. Stay safe out there. And check your baby monitors. Even if you don't have a baby, just check them. Alex out.